Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful, swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Tuesday, November 22nd, 2016. Yeah, it's cloudy, beautiful and cloudy out here along Fort Lauderdale, right by the Galleria Mall, to be exact, across the street. Coffee shop, just kicking back. So you get to hear some traffic, fancy glamour cars driving by like a Ferrari already did. Expect some sirens and so forth. Oh yeah, so yeah, it looks like everyone's making a big stink about Trump. He's not gonna be filing, not gonna pursue the investigation on Hillary Clinton. Ha! Well, my friends, if that's the case, I always say, don't believe the hype. Action speaks louder than words. But that's why it's okay to be critical, but do not witch hunt. And of course, we're gonna talk about some topics, mainly on the Dakota pipeline, like more disturbing cases. I was watching some of the videos yesterday, even when there were like cannoning the protesters, which they're very powerful, like very powerful stuff. And they're using LRADs. They're distort their hearing. They're pursuing that as well. And I just find it interesting too, because even I went to some conservative liberties, I think conservative liberty site, talked about they support the Dakota pipeline, and let Trump know that. It's funny because when you see this about fuel and oil get people working, not can kind of crucify them completely, but why we have to alter the land. And if you know me in my past shows, I always say, hey, would they like it if it was a pipeline was going through some burial site or some cemetery where your families are at? Will you like it? I don't think so. So, and always, I do recall reading a book entitled "The Emperor Wears No Clothes," which Henry Ford, it's December 1942 or 41 of Popular Mechanics, created an engine that runs hemp fuel, biomass. They want to they want to condemn that, but they want to bring that pipeline in, right? Come on, think about it, folks. Things add up. It's added up. Power, control. They don't want it open. So enough of that for the time being, and we'll just hit it off with the tyranny at the Dakota pipeline, and of course, Unicorn Ryan is doing a press conference. Let's see if it's still happening. Doing a press conference around. Let's check this out. Yeah, it's still going on. Uh, which I'm going to add that to the photos. So it would be the press conference for victims of police violence during the Dakota pipeline fight, which is on Unicorn Riot. Very good site. Not for donations are important. So check those guys out. I'm going to add to my footnotes for sure. And we're going to do a few articles on this. We'll start off here with the Intercept.com. It's from Eileen Brown. Titled, medics describe how police sprayed Standing Rock demonstrators with tear gas and water cannons as police unleashed streams of icy water Sunday night against Dakota Access Pipeline demonstrators. Linda Black Elk, a member of the Standing Rock Medic and Healer Council, was helping care for the injured demonstrators. The council estimated that 300 people were treated for injuries, including 26 who were taken to area hospitals. What it was like people was walking through a dark winter Dakota night, some of them so cold and sprayed with water for so long that their clothes were frozen to their body and crunching as they walked. So you could hear this crunching sound and it's pop, pop, pop. And people yelled to the police, we'll pray for you. We love you, Black Elk said. describing the scene as police sprayed protesters with water and fired tear gas and rubber bullets during the more than 6 hour standoff. All of a sudden, there were these bright, blinding spotlights, so you could see each other, but you couldn't see the police. She said, every once in a while, you could hear someone scream who had been hit by a rubber bullet. In the midst of the clash, the Medic and Healer Council, which was set up to provide health support to those fighting the pipeline, released a statement pleading with police to halt the use of water cannons, as medical professionals were concerned for the real risk loss of life due to severe hypothermia. Under these conditions, the statement said, the standoff began after pipeline opponents attempted to use a semi-truck to remove the two charged military vehicles from a bridge. The vehicles were serving as a blockade between the large encampment known as Asedi Sakun, which has served as a base for the blocking the pipeline, and the construction sites accessible further down the highway. Beyond the burned-out vehicles stood cement road barriers topped with razor wire, behind which police and other security officials have been standing guard since the end of October. Its presence means a detour for those traveling between the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation and the city of Birdsmark, including emergency medical services. In a statement on Sunday, the Morton County Sheriff's Department explained the bridge closing, saying North Dakota Department of Transportation has closed Blackwater Bridge due to damage caused after protesters set numerous fires on the bridge October 27th. In addition, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has requested Morton County to prevent protesters from trespassing on U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and north of the camp. Funny about that, because that's like technically that's federal property, which supposed to be 10 square miles. So if you got more than that, totally unconstitutional. According to the Sheriff's Department, approximately 400 people were involved in the protest. When asked in a press conference Monday about the use of water cannons, Morton County Sheriff, yep, trucks come by, Kyle Kirschner said, we don't have water cannons, explaining this is just a fire hose. Okay. So what the hell difference does it make? Knucklehead. It sprayed more than a mist, as we didn't want it to get directly on them, but we wanted to make sure that it uses measures to help keep everybody safe. This guy's in a wet dream or what? We're not just going to let people and protesters in large groups come in and threaten officers. That's not happening. The department characterized the protesters' actions as very aggressive, saying that projectiles had been thrown at police, injuring one officer. Medics on the ground said the demonstrators they observed were unarmed and largely nonviolent. The department said it had requested additional assistance from law enforcement around the state, and that Border Patrol would be providing support. Noah Morris was another medic at the scene. They were just hosing people down with their water cannon, and that continued for entirety of 4 hours. I was out there watching, he said. He said that earlier in the week, the rivers and creeks nearby had started to crust over with ice, as he and his team flushed the eyes of people sprayed with tear gas. The water, the milk of magnesia they used the turn of to black ice on the ground. Morris said he knew multiple people that had been hit in the head with rubber bullets or beanbag rounds. In a statement, the Medic and Healer Council described injuries, including an elder that lost consciousness before being revived on site, a man that experienced a seizure, and a woman whose eye was injured when she was shot in the face with a rubber bullet. 21-year-old woman from New York, Sophia Ralansky, underwent surgery Monday after her arm was severely injured by a concussion grenade, according to the council. In a statement on Tuesday, her father, Wayne Walansky, said she would need multiple surgeries to regain function of her use of her arm and hand. All the muscle and soft tissue between her elbow and wrist were blown away, he said. She will be every day for the foreseeable future, fearful of losing her arm and hand. In a statement to the Los Angeles Times, the Sheriff's Department denied using concussion grenades and suggested the injury was caused by explosives allegedly used by protesters. The Healer and Media Council responded. Those statements are refuted by Sophia's testimony and several eyewitnesses who watched the police intentionally throw concussion grenades at unarmed people. by the lack of charring of flesh at the wound site and by the grenade pieces that have been removed from her arm in surgery and will be saved for legal proceedings. Some of the injured were transported to the Aseti Sakowin camp, which lies a few minutes walk from the demonstration site. There thousands of people have convened in an effort to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline from threatening the drinking water and cultural resources of members of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and others lying downstream. If completed, the pipeline will transport oil from the Bakken shale fields in North Dakota to transfer point in Illinois, dipping underneath the Missouri River just north of the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. Tribal leaders are fighting in court to stop it, but the corporations behind the plan, Energy Transfer Partners, has argued the opportunity to reroute the pipeline has already passed. In a recent interview with the Associated Press, the company's CEO, Kelsey Warren, declared, "There is not another way. We're building at the location." At the camp, the injured were treated inside winterized structures that had been erected alongside less protected camping tents. Other demonstrators were taken to a nearby gym when medics attempted to raise body temperatures with blankets and hot beverages. Black Elk, a resident of the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, has been involved in a fight against the pipeline since last February, when community leaders first learned of plans to build it. She's an ethnobotanist botanist and instructor at the local Sitting Bull College and has served as a cultural liaison for the Medic and Healer Council. She said she had seen police reactions to protests become progressively more militant, more violent. Morris recalled a protest at the end of the summer when police provided water to a thirsty protester attached to the construction equipment. He says things have changed since then. "We're standing back in a state of disbelief," said Jesse Lopez, a surgeon based in Kansas City who has traveled to North Dakota multiple times to support the Medic and Healer Council. "I maybe could see pepper spray, maybe rubber bullets, maybe tear gas, but water cannons. Water cannons, that that's done to inflict deliberate, severe, life-threatening harm." And of course, there's an updated version here. The piece was updated to include details of Sophia Wolanski's injuries. So this is not looking pretty for the state that actually is supporting this. And as far as I'm concerned, these guys need to really be ashamed of themselves, and what they're doing is completely unacceptable. And I'm just wondering how would they like it if the state or the officers who are there get their space violated, see their families be injured by the weapons they're using. Don't tell me it's just an assumption, because stuff like this occurred everywhere. Even after some of the protests down in Miami with the whole FTAA stuff in Pittsburgh and all that, they use the same crap. And they say the protesters are the bad guys. They're the terrorists. You're being watched, you bastards. You think you're gonna get away with it? It's gonna blow back in your face when least suspect it. And don't cry to any of us, because we'll say, "Put this upon yourselves." Basic fruits of your labor, you receive blowback. We're not wishing this happening to you or your families, the people you love. But if that time comes, don't come crying, because you have to look in the mirror and examine your own sorrows. And something from Truth Activist, and it says here, if I'm correct, who wrote this? Hold on one moment. One moment here. Hold on here. Let me check this out. I believe it's sometimes I forget. Whitney Webb, and it says is the one's about. This one's entitled "Teen Girl Shot in the Face. Tribal Elders Hospitalized as Militarized Police Assaults DAPL Protesters." an attempt to reopen a blocked bridge in Cannonball, North Dakota. Protesters were assaulted by militarized police, tear gas, and water cannons in below freezing temperatures, leading to multiple injuries. As a controversial Dakota access near completion despite a government injunction on its construction, police violence against protesters is spiraling out of control. Last night, militarized police forces assaulted protesters opposing the pipeline with concussion grenades, tear gas, rubber bullets, and water cannons despite the below freezing temperature. The incident took place on the Blackwater Bridge near Asti Sakoin encampment. The bridge has been closed since late October when a clash with protesters and police in riot gear led to its forcible shutdown by the authorities. The protesters were attempting to clear the bridge as they claimed the blockade prevents aid and supplies from reaching their encampments and that is harming the local economy of nearby Cannonball, North Dakota. After a brief confrontation with police, protesters allegedly succeeded in removing some vehicles from the highway blockade. Soon after, heavily militarized police appeared, who targeted the protesters in an all-out assault. Tear gas, pepper spray, concussion grenades, rubber bullets were used on the protesters despite the below freezing temperatures in a police attempt to clear protesters from the bridge. By midnight, an estimated 167 protesters were injured. Medics confirmed that a 13-year-old girl was shot in the face, though they did not confirm it was a rubber bullet or live ammunition. Medics on site also said that police has targeted the face and legs of protesters. 7 were eventually hospitalized, 3 of whom are said to be elders of the Standing Rock Sioux. The tribe has led the protest against the pipeline. One of the elders suffered cardiac arrest at the scene, though medics successfully resuscitated him, though he remains in critical condition. The assault was live streamed on Facebook through Facebook, eventually cut off the feed. The fatality has already generated a firestorm of outrage and criticism on social media as increasingly violent crackdowns on the peaceful protesters have become a national disgrace. The great irony in all of this is that many Americans are gearing up to celebrate Thanksgiving, a holiday meant to celebrate the teamwork shared between Native Americans and European colonists. Despite the cheerful facade that this holiday publicly portrays, Native Americans live in some of the most impoverished communities in the world after suffering centuries of criminal exploitation by both corporations and the federal government. Dakota Access is only the most recent example. The Pine Ridge Sioux Reservation, just miles away from Standing Rock, has the lowest life expectancy in the Western world with 47 years for males and 52 years for females. The infant mortality rate is also 5 times the U.S. national average. Under these circumstances, the celebration of Thanksgiving is a cultural farce and complete hypocrisy, as many of those munching on turkey and stuffing this upcoming Thursday will not be spent even a second reflecting on the centuries-long suffering and violent suppression of Native Americans that continue to this day. Yeah, so I've always, even in my younger years, I was never fascinated with Indian reservations. I was like, 11, 12 years old and examining these things when I was younger. Plus, how they so completely blighted is completely disgusting. And they're just an example, on how people live. And now you see a bigger pipeline, a domino effect, that's affecting everybody. So this is why people have to understand why, as a person myself, never trust the government. And a couple of people be critical, criticize me for it. But the question I ask them: have you studied history of tyrannical governments? If not, look it up and come back. We'll talk. Not trying to pinpoint, or crucify people, but a lot of folks assume and never take the time to actually go further. These are our brothers and sisters, regardless. Because if If we don't do nothing with them, who's going to be next? So when you're on at Thanksgiving, think about them. Talk about it when you're in your dinner. Even the day before, have chats with folks. I might do it the next couple of days. Chat with folks on this. Let's have a good discussion. Talk to each other. Let them learn. Become the rabbi, the teacher, and don't blame the white man for everything either, because that's not going to cut it. Everyone's getting screwed. Part of this whole tyrannical plantation, I call it. So I'm going to continue on here, which is some interesting news. It came out a few days ago. I should have had this out. I should have gotten this done a while back. But it says here, Dakota Access Pipeline builders admit protests have cost them $100 million. By Nick Vernon from Animedia.org. The parent company of Dakota Access LLC, the corporation behind the construction of a $3.8 billion Dakota Access Pipeline, has filed a motion in federal court to speed up the approval process for its plans for the pipeline to go across the Missouri River. Energy Transfer Partners issued its call for declaratory relief on Tuesday in Washington, D.C. The pipeline's path goes through the Army Corps of Engineer land, which is under federal jurisdiction. This area is the site of contention between Native Americans, water protectors, Dakota Access LCC, and militarized law enforcement. The Standing Sioux Rock Tribe has been protesting the pipeline because they say it threatens the water supply of the tribe and millions of other Americans. They also assert it infringes on a tribe's historical, sacred, and treaty lands. Thousands of allies have joined the Standing Rock Tribe in their use of civil disobedience to physically stop the Dakota Access Pipeline's construction. According to court documents, as noted by the Associated Press, the pipeline builders admit delays caused by protests have already cost Energy Transfer Partners $100 million, claiming further delay in consideration of this case would add millions of dollars more in months in costs, which cannot be recovered. The opposition to the Dakota Access Pipeline grew into a global movement after protests took place in 200 cities around the world on Tuesday. Energy Transfer Partners is urging the Army Corps of Engineers to finalize its approval on an easement granting construction of the pipeline to cross the Missouri River. The decision was delayed following the protests and subsequent massive outpouring of public support for the Standing Rock Sioux. Energy Transfer Partners' argument hinges on private property rights, saying the pipeline runs through land they secure legitimately. They claim protesters have no right to trespass in their efforts to stop its construction. Ironically, however, the securing path for the Dakota Access Pipeline relied heavily on the use of eminent domain, which violate the property rights of many landowners who refuse to allow their land to be used for the pipeline. In response to a federal court filing, Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Chair Dave Archibald said, Dakota Access Pipeline, the Dakota Access is so desperate to get this project in the ground that is now suing the federal government on the novel theory that it doesn't need an easement to cross federal lands. They are wrong. The lawsuit will not succeed. We are looking forward to discussing the easement with the administration and explaining why it must be denied. Meanwhile, Native American opposition to the pipeline at the Sacred Stone Camp near Cannonball, North Dakota, has begun to dig in for the winter. And it appears the blockade of Dakota Access Pipeline will continue regardless of the court's decision. So they're getting them where it hurts, which is good. And I know too. I remember I read some of the stuff that the Governor Abbott got some money in their campaign from the company as well, Energy Transfer Partners. So it's an interesting time right now, and what's concurring. So hopefully the courts will favor them, and have to have merit. And I could add another thing to to the sheriff of Morton County. I recommend you study the Battle of Athens, Tennessee, because I don't want it can lead to that when governments harass people and they retaliate. Even the governor of North Dakota should be held accountable as well on seeing his own brothers and sisters be deprived. So, like I said before, good thing to talk about this Thanksgiving weekend. Make it authentic, not just some window dressing. I know I'm a little bit relaxed, so forgive me on there. But yeah, so that's really it. But definitely, I'm going to add the press conference on here by Unicorn Riot. I think it's still on here. Let me find out. Yeah, so it's it's been actually recorded. So I'm going to add that to the memo. You can read it yourself. You can examine it yourselves. And a good amount of people watched it, which is good. So give them all the support you can, my friends. Like I said, if you can't let the cancer spread. All right, next one here. Like to put crap in your drinks. This is by Natural News, and of course David Icke posted stuff on Twitter, which is great. And says here, this is came out. Says aspartame now being marketed as natural sweetener. Name changed into amino sweet. This is by Ethan A. Huff. What? All right, I'll continue on here. As it reads, the world's most toxic artificial sweetener is undergoing a major identity overhaul in an effort by its manufacturer to cover up the chemical sword history as well as to keep people buying it. Amino sweet, in case you can see on food labels, is really just plain old aspartame. The same synthetic sweetening agent has repeatedly been linked to causing seizures and organ damage among other physical harm. So, since its initial discovery in 1965 by G.D. Surly Pharmaceuticals, aspartame has been the subject of considerable and unrelenting controversy. Even way back then, scientists knew without a shadow of a doubt that aspartame wasn't exactly safe for human consumption. But because it was a sweet and non-caloric, it meant dollar signs in the eyes of a company CEOs who recognized that marketing as an alternative to sugar could be immensely profitable. They were right, but the decision to bring aspartame to market, a monstrous feat in and of itself, has serious consequences on public health. Derived from the genetically modified GM amino acids, aspartame and the world's most popular artificial sweetener present in everything from chewing gum and soda pop to children's cereal and even toothpaste, despite the fact that its track record of safety leaves much to be desired. Numerous peer-reviewed studies published in the 1980s reveal that aspartame has a damaging effect on the brain. Researchers from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology discovered that aspartame can generate a major neurochemical changes in the brain since its excitotoxin aspartame is known to damage the brain as well as the central nervous systems people who consume it, especially children. One study published in the journal Neurotoxicology and Terology in 1984 concluded that excitotoxins like aspartame may produce blood elevations hard enough to cause damage to the nervous system of young children, damage which is not detectable at the time of occurrence, but which may give a rise to subtle disturbances of neuroendocrine function of adolescence and or adulthood. Many more studies conducted in the 1990s and 2000s beyond have reiterated these findings, adding that aspartame consumption can impair memory response and retention and damage neurons in a hypothalamic region of the brain. Mental retardation, and various other forms of brain damage have also been linked to aspartame consumption, side effects that the federal government, in its continued approval of the chemical drug, refuses to address. NutraSweet and AminoSweet is all still aspartame, despite continued efforts by industry lobbyists and their government puppets to keep this damaging information about aspartame under wraps. The internet and other uncontrolled environments where news is decimated have succeeded in waking many people up its to its as to its dangers. But now consumers have worried about the name change like Amino Sweet that attempts to once again pull a wool over their eyes when it comes to detecting artificial sweeteners in the food they eat. So, since acquiring ownership of the aspartame business from Monsanto in 2000, Japanese drug company Ajinomoto has been working to rebrand and recreate aspartame in order to boost its acceptance by the public. One of these is remaining a sound more natural, even though it's still the same old chemical that also sold under the name like NutraSweet and Equal. While sugar has its own health drawbacks, it's nowhere near the level of aspartame's threats. The list of aspartame threats effects is lengthy, including damaging effects like brain lesion, lymphoma, leukemia, and other forms of cancer, not to mention fetal deformities and even weight gain. That's right, consuming aspartame instead of sugar can still make you fat. Just remember this: buyer beware. More things change, the more stays the same. Same crap, different name. That's how you gotta look at it, my friend. All right, I'm very vigilant too. I have my bad habits, but like I said before, I'm getting a hell of a lot better. What I consume and purchase, and this is completely unacceptable when they sell this garbage, poison into our markets, but they want to crucify us for growing marijuana. Okay, that's how hypocritical these scumbags are. So just beware, examine these things. I always tell this to all my friends as well. Hey, even the people, I don't have lot of followers on Facebook, but hopefully my pen pals are actually paying attention because I do care about you guys. And I don't, you know me, I don't make things up. It may sound off the wall to many of them, but I'm not gonna lie to you guys. All right. Remember, always invest in your health. Drink a lot of water. Okay, you want some low calorie drink? Drink water. That'll be your solution. You don't need all these sweetened crap. Think for yourselves. I'm doing a little sharing right now. All right, cool. Next one here came from the New American, came out yesterday by Michael Tennant, titled UK passes law creating totalitarian state style surveillance state. Hooray for 1984. Woo! All right, as it reads here, last Thursday, the British Parliament passed a bill granting the government perhaps the most extreme spying powers in the developed world. According to the UK Independent, the bill will, among other things, require internet service providers to retain logs of their customers' web usage for up to a year and make them available to government agencies upon request. Hooray for 1984. Trust me, big brother, I will sell my behind to you. Give it to me, baby. And I will proceed. It will force technology companies to make electronic devices less secure so that agencies can hack into them. The UK has just legalized the most extreme surveillance in the history of Western diplomacy, tweeted National Security Agency whistleblower Edward Snowden. It goes farther than many atrocities. The Investigatory Powers Act, aptly dubbed the Snoopers Charter by critics, is the latest version of a bill that the government has been trying to pass for years. A previous version of the Communications Data Bill was prevented becoming law in 2013. As usual, however, a government seeking greater power over the people it allegedly serves wouldn't take no for an answer. Prime Minister Theresa May reintroduced the bill a year ago when she was Home Secretary, and it passed both houses of Parliament with, as the Guardian put it, only token resistance. Thank you for being a bunch of wanking and Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemamas to the British Parliament. So you could drink your tea, have your tea, and consume it in your rectum. All right. In 20 years that I've been dealing with surveillance policies in this country, I've never seen a more docile parliament. Gus Huizen, executive director of the non-profit Privacy International, told the Financial Times, it is enough to make one wonder what the intelligence agencies, which, according to The Guardian, just last month, were found to have been unlawfully collecting massive volumes of confidential personal data without proper oversight for 17 years, have on these lawmakers. They were, after all, concerned enough to add an amendment to the bill protecting themselves from the new intrusions they are foisting on their fellow citizens. The new statement summarized the most horrifying of the bill's provisions, saying it will force your internet service provider to keep your internet correction record, ICR, a list of services and websites when you use and when for 12 months. Oblige, yeah, oblige communications companies to retain your communications, hand them over when served with a notice, and remove encryption when requested. Created new rules about what can you intercept your communications, i.e., who can read your messages. So all you folks in England, write some bogus crap. Just drive these bastards crazy. That'll be my first endorsement, okay? Just write sarcasm. Explicitly legalize intelligence agencies, law enforcement, and the armed forces interfering with, i.e., hacking electronic equipment, for example, by covertly downloading the contents of your phone or remotely accessing your computer, allowing security and intelligence agencies to use these powers in bulk to obtain large numbers of data about a large number of people. Create warrants for authorities to examine bulk data sets, basically a lot of people's personal information, such as medical records and tax histories. Although the government claims the bill is needed to combat terrorism, penile microphone, my friend, the last refuge of the 21st century scoundrel, it is not hard to see how such powers could be abused. The Financial Times wrote that dozens of public organizations and departments, including the Food Standards Agency and the Gambling Commission, will be able, and there's a truck going by, will be able to access your communications, in some cases without a warrant. Thank you. Intelligence agencies will be free to scrutinize data from an unlimited number of people who are not suspected from any criminal activity. The paper at it. Assumption man, kind of sort of loves the right thing. Assumption man. All right. All of us want to be safe and protected from terrorists and the like, but the evidence that these powers are all needed is thin indeed, observed Julian Herbert, a former member of the parliament who helped kill the 2013 bill. However, the cost to all of our privacy is huge. The bill, he declared, should terrify us all of us. Then there is the danger from forcing tech companies to create backdoors by which governments can hack into electronic devices. These companies, in fact, were among the few vociferous opponents of the bill. The Apple telling Parliament a key left under the doormat would not just be there for the good guys. The bad guys would find it too. What's more, the bill allows UK agencies to hack into devices all over the world, not just within their own jurisdiction. The passage of the Snoopers Charter through Parliament is a sad day for British liberty. Bella Sankey, policy director for the UK civil liberties group Liberty, said in a statement, under the guise of the counterterrorism, the state has achieved totalitarian-style surveillance powers, the most intrusive system of any democracy in human history. It has the ability to discriminately hack, intercept, record, and monitor the communications and internet use of the entire population. Defenders of the bill claimed that numerous safeguards were added to protect individuals' privacy. Herbert, however, suggested that only a tiny handful of cosmetic changes were made to the bill, most infamously inserting the word privacy into the title of one section. rather than actually doing something to support privacy. The Independent reported that bill contains measures that are still undefined and could be used by the government to force companies to do almost anything. And the new statesman pointed out, while the alleged safeguards sound good, there are endless problems in practice, such as vague requirements for obtaining a warrant that could be stretched to rubber stamp a lot of dubious requests. In short, the nation that gave the world George Orwell is now erecting Big Brother, yet paradoxically accepting to remain a free country. But as Liberty Policy Officer Silky Carlo asked, has any country in history given such an extensive surveillance powers and remained a highly respected democracy? Oh, yeah. Like I said, welcome to 1984 on steroids to the UK. God save the Queen and Big Brother too, right? Like I said, so I would recommend everyone out to just use sarcasm in these emails. Just drive these people crazy. And go ask them, hey, to anyone reading, how does it feel being a bend over Bob to the New World Order? Are you proud of Aunt Jemima, Uncle Tom to totalitarianism? Those are stuff I would put on there. So that's why I just get a big kick out of these things and find it very insulting. Remember, it's micro solutions to mega problems. And another thing I'm going to add to my footnotes too is by uh, Boiling Frogs post. You got a thing called News Buds. I think his name is Spyro. It's called here UK passes most Reaper surveillance laws to date and looks to spend $1 billion on Reaper drones. So definitely, he's good. He explains a lot more. So it's like 5 minutes, a 5 minute video. So I'm gonna add that to my footnotes on my Spreaker page. So please check it out and let them know that Look the Third sent you. All right, and the final one right here is actually came from ArmstrongEconomics.com. Came out yesterday. It might be the same. It might be the same dude that wrote it. I think it's Mike Armstrong. I think his name is. Yeah, Martin Armstrong. Excuse me. Wrote this yesterday. Interesting commentary, and it says here: the rising civil unrest in America is highly dangerous for the future. And of course, had thing on here on Thomas Paine. And as it reads here, the American Revolution was inspired by one book entitled Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Even We even find British political tokens with the saying "End of Pain," which was obviously a pun of his name. He was demonized by the British as the man who inspired the revolution. According to his intense study of the Continental Army at Valley Forge, the average age of George Washington soldiers in 1777 was between 20 and 25. There was a average large average. There was the average because youth who joined were 16 to 18. The last verified surviving American veteran of the war was John Gray of Virginia, who joined the Continental Army at the age of 16 in 1780. George Washington himself wrote that to place any dependence upon militia is assuredly resting upon a broken staff. Of the New England militia, Washington wrote, their officers, generally speaking, are the most indifferent kind of people I ever saw. Militia privates ignored commands issued by officers of the regular army, which disturbed Washington. Common age of the Continental soldier was quite young. One historian found that 9 New Jersey towns, nearly 75% of boys, were just 15 and 16. There are accounts of people such as artilleryman Jeremiah Levering, who entered the service at 12 or 13, and hundreds more under the legal age at 16 served in all services. Thousands more were under 20. It was the youth who are inspired and do not appreciate the tragedy of war. If we look at the Russian Revolution again, we find a critical book that was the root of the split entitled What is to be Done. Lenin wrote this book while serving a sentence of exile. The book was first published in Germany during 1902, but it was outlawed for publication and distribution in Russia. Lenin argued from standpoint of the proletariat, who he regarded as workers or working class people collectively, was being was being being striven spontaneously to revolutionary socialism by capitalism itself, which he further contended he predisposed the workers to the acceptance of Marxism. This class in the Roman times, this class of people were called the plebeians, and they too revolted and installed tribunes who could charge any corrupt politician and could not be prosecuted themselves. Lenin also took the position that case for workers will not be spontaneously become Marxist simply by fighting battles over wages was with their employers. Lenin argued that Marxists needed to form a political party to publicize their ideas and persuade workers to become Marxists. Lenin then took a step further, arguing that to understand politics, you must understand all of society, not just workers and their economic struggles with their employers. Therefore, to move the workers to become political and to become Marxists, they needed to learn all about all of society, not just their own small corner of within. This is very important to understand because this is the same precise formula in operation today among the American youth. They are not the workers, for most are simply students. They will not respond to traditional class struggle of the early 20th century when the Industrial Revolution was just beginning at the confrontation between workers and employers or a major battle. Lacking that sort of class struggle among children who are not even employed can only be accomplished precisely as Lenin argued only from without. They would not spontaneously respond to poor working conditions since they do not work. The sphere from which revolution can arise becomes possible by obtaining knowledge in the sphere of interrelations between all classes on a theoretical basis. Do not understand the principle that Wall Street raises money to fund small businesses, helping them to grow to create jobs and the economy. Instead, the bankers engaged in proprietary trading are viewed as Wall Street, when in fact they are simply spe- spec, spec, speculators who bribe politicians. Lenin also made it clear that the revolution would only be achievable by the strong leadership of one person or a select few over the masses. Lenin set forth that once the revolution has successfully overthrown the government, this individual leader must release power to allow socialism to fully encompass the nation. Lenin's view of socialist intelligentsia demonstrated that he was departing from Marxist theory in this regard. Lenin agreed with the Marxist idea of eliminating social classes, creating the idea of French commune from where Marx derived this theory. But Lenin saw a ruling class should maintain control, creating distinction between those in politics and the people, not much different from our Western political classes. Lenin did not effectively support the Marxist theory of a classless society. The party splits of Bolsheviks majority and Mensheviks minority in 1903. The party split of Bolsheviks majority. Oops. Okay, the differences originally began to surface with the publication of What Is to Be Done. Mensheviks generally tended to be more moderate and were more positive toward a liberal opposition. The dominant peasant-based socialist revolutionary party, where the Bolsheviks saw the need for a strong political ruling class. As discussed in What Is to Be Done, Lenin clearly believed that a rigid political structure was necessary to effectively initiate a formal revolution to maintain it. This idea was met with opposition from this once close followers, including Julius Martov, Grigory or Georgy Plekhanov, Leon Trotsky, and Pavel Axelrod. Plekhanov and Lenin's major dispute arose addressing the topic of nationalizing land or leaving it for private use. Lenin wanted to nationalize everything to aid in collectivization to be centrally controlled by the political class. Plekhanov thought worker motivation would remain higher if individuals were unable to maintain their own property, which was true. The average party member was very young, and that was the entire key to brainwash youth who had no experience in life to understand where they were really surrendering personal values and freedom to the political class, as they are doing once again in the United States. In 1907, 22% of Bolsheviks were all under 20, with a staggering 37% were just 20 to 24. Only 16% were between the ages of 25 to 29. Therefore, 75% of the Bolsheviks were under 30 years old. Total membership was 8,400 in 1905, rising to 13,000 in 1906 and 46,100 by 1907. Interesting, huh? And I'll continue on here. Therefore, beware of the youth. They are easily influenced, and they will have little regard for life, for they will see themselves throughout history as the great reformers. They will not listen to Trump, nor they will give him a chance, for majority of newspapers and mainstream media will attack Trump at every possible opportunity, since they are bought and paid for by the establishment. We are witnessing the Second American Revolution in its infancy. The United States will break apart as with the case with Rome. Note the reverse of this coin of the first Gallic emperor, Postumus, from 259 to 268 AD. He is raising the female symbol of Gaul, promising restoration of the norm. The sound similar. Change. There's the note on. You can see it yourself. Okay, so and of course it talks about the presidential elections, the popular vote. George Washington became president on February 4th, 1789. The decline and fall of the United States actually began with the swearing in of Obama 224 years later, January 20th, 2013. The peak in government came with 2015.75 insofar as the visible confidence the government as evidenced by the Trump revolution remaking the Republican Party. The first opportunity where the United States will break apart at least into three parts, if not four, will be 23 years from 2013. They will most likely be the pie target from the 2032 high 3.43, 14 years later, bringing us to 2036. That might sound nuts, but in 1985, we stated against in 2011 that a third party could take the White House in 2016, which was perfect on a 51.6 year or 8.6 year ECM, economic confidence model frequency. We should then see the shift of financial capital of the world to Asia with the rise of both India and China. The seed of this breakup are being planted right now by both Obama and Hillary. There are Marxist philosophies that were what destroyed both China and Russia that are directly responsible for the collapse in the world GDP growth. The refugee invasion into Europe is akin to the invasion of the barbarians into the Roman Empire. Both groups had little respect for the culture and open contempt for much of it. They are not interested as a whole in adopting the European culture. They are intent upon imposing their own upon Europe. The Great Divide in the United States will get much worse, and Hillary will be the spokesperson to lead the nation into socialist chaos. Centralized government is a doom of humankind. It is people like Hillary and Obama who have, as Thomas Paine observed, confounded society with government as to leave no distinction between them. Their goal is to eliminate personal freedom and oppose their doctrine by sheer force. The Puritans imposed the same policies in England following the revolution they called glorious after beheading the king. They made it a felony to kiss your wife in public, outlawed sports because it led to cursing, outlawed plays for they were filled with lies and outlawed Christmas because you should be praying, not giving gifts and partying. See roots of evil. Whatever one group thinks it has a right to impose its philosophies upon the whole, civil war breaks out historically. So even though Hillary Clinton lost, her lackeys will try to will see what he's saying here can pursue the cause their cause. They are New World Order material, plain and simple. And a lot of these folks out there don't get caught on the hype or deceptive hoopla. They don't care about you. They like to see folks like you, get used, manipulated, and punked. You're just numbers to them. Start contemplating for yourselves. Learn your skills, learn your traits, learn history, not just the United States, but the world. I recommend you folks read stuff from Thomas Paine. They may call him a nut job, but knew what he was talking about. Decentralizing is actually happening. And we got to pursue it as a whole. Not just in this country, but it's happening globally. I.e., Brexit. Very good example. Everyone out there, stay vigilant. Don't get caught in their con games. I've been there. Hear their rhetoric and call them out on it. They hate me with a passion. And you know what? I don't feel sad, but positively inspired. And that is all for now. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to the show. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. That includes the rest of my archives on my Spreaker page. If you have any questions, comments, or send me a recommendation, like information and so forth, including bringing music, that'd be great. Whatever you do, please send your correspondences with decorum. Hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, and Scene.life. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3, which is LokiLuck and the number 3 altogether at gmail.com. All right, my friends. Like I said before, hopefully you folks have a great weekend and talk about things like what's going on in the Dakota pipeline during your holiday meal with your family. Because it is a good discussion. Instead of screaming, yelling, having passion, sympathy, just have a direct discussion. You never know. So I do find this essential, and I'm going to do the same thing. I want to play a song. Actually, it was originally from the Rolling Stones, but the band called Screw, which are based out of, if I'm correct, Texas, Austin, Texas. And it was Adam Grossman. He was in a band called Angkor Wat, which at that time was living in Corpus Christi. This one's entitled Symphony for the Devil. And it came out in 92 off their album Burning Water, Drowned in Flame. If you haven't heard it, check it out. It's off of Metal Blade Records, and you won't be disappointed. All right, my friends, that's all for now. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.